Hey everyone, cassydraws here and welcome to today's video. Before we get started, I just want to give a big shout out to our channel sponsors here on YouTube and on Twitch, Chartpack, Grumbacker, and Molotov. I am blessed and honored to be a part of the team and I'm so grateful for your support. Their links can be found in the description box below or on my website cassydraws.com under the supplies tab. Now let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so to start off, each of my portraits, I always begin with the outline of the eye as well as any markings that the subject may have. And so I am taking this Mars Black and Burnt Umber and White combination color and my 000 brush, and I'm just going in and I'm basically giving myself a roadmap. So all of the markings and any of the outlines that the subject may have around the nose, the eyes, I'm blocking those in first so that way I have a really good indicator as this painting progresses where things are anatomically. Now, my next step always is to complete the eyes, and so I'm starting the base layer with that beautiful robin egg blue, and I'm slowly starting to darken that color to a navy and sort of dark bluish gray, and that is going to give us the roundness and the fullness that these beautiful big cats have in their eyes. They're very deep and you can get lost looking in them, so I'm really darkening that up in and around that pupil and the top area, and that's where a lot, and you'll see with big cats, they have very heavy eyelids, and so usually those are very heavily shadowed towards the top. And of course, as that sort of shadow dries and progresses, I do always add in that highlight on top, and putting that catch light in on your painting will really bring those eyes to life and make your subject look much more realistic. So just keep layering, have your patience pants. Acrylic does dry quickly, but make sure you just are patient with that. Watch those layers and really add in a lot of different colors. It doesn't have to be one color family. You can do browns, little light orange tones, or blues. So look at your reference and really see how those eyes break down and what colors are actually in that eyeball. And you might be surprised. There might be some purple in there. There might be some kind of weird glare from the sun where it's like an orange color even though it might be a blue eyeball. So really kind of break that down, and I think you will find that your eyes will look much more realistic and definitely pop. So the next step in my painting, I'm going to get the base layers down for the nose and the surrounding area as well, using a sort of dusty rose color and a sort of medium gray. And once those base layers are dry, I go in with my 0 or my 000, and I'm slowly starting to block in the details of the nose. So make sure on your reference you pay attention to what birthmarks they may have or sort of aging or sunspots, and kind of block that in your 2, 3, or 4 layers. Your last layer on your nose will be a sort of highlight, and so I like to add that in at the very end using a sort of kind of pinky color or maybe a light blue as well. I never usually go in with a straight titanium white color. That's just my preference. I like it a little bit more toned, and I just go in and add that in as well. So you're going to see that I do 5, 6, 7 layers on this nose and then finishing it off with the highlight. And that will make it look glossy and wet and look a lot more realistic. Alright, so this next part in the video is probably my most asked question of my YouTube videos and my live streams. So bear with me. I'm going to try not to get too long-winded, but I think this is super important and hopefully helpful for you guys. So basically how I start my fur process, if I were to just take a small area, is once that base layer is dry, I take my small round brush or my liner, depending on how long the fur is in that area. So you'll see me kind of interchange them, and I'll start with a darker tone than my base. So for instance, this painting, I'm working with a darker gray than my base layer, and I'm going in and I'm starting to mark the direction of the hair. So I'm indicating to myself and to the viewer once it's completed, the direction that the hair will be and the way that is laying on the face. And just like a human, how our hair grows out of our scalp or our eyebrows on our face or whatever it may be, we have hair growth direction, and so do animals and birds and anything really with texture or pattern, even scales, for example, on a snake or a reptile. They all grow in a certain direction. And so really keep that in mind. If that's one piece of advice I could give for this painting or this video, would be to watch your hair direction. So I start off with that darker color, and that for me is indicative indicating the direction of the hair, but also the shadow as well. So as I'm talking, and I'm talking your ear off, but you can definitely see that I'm going in with a darker gray to illustrate the sort of structure in the face. So I'm starting to map where the hair is going, what direction. I'm also mapping in, for example, the bridge of the nose area, the top of that nose, the kind of sides where it kind of slopes in towards the face. So I'm slowly starting to block in those values and those areas with a darker gray. And from there, what I'll do afterwards, once that's dry and I feel like I've got a good idea of the surface area, I will go in with a lighter gray. And again, this could be a 10% color difference. So it's a little bit lighter, 10%, very, very minimal. Or it could be a 40 or 50% color increase to a lightness, a lighter white color. And it all depends on the area, how much light there is. So keep that in mind with your reference. My reference is pretty well lit. So all of these areas were kind of the same. There wasn't any sort of dramatic lighting elements in this piece. So it was pretty straightforward, but I'm going to keep lightening that color, and then I'm going to illustrate further the hair on top of those shadows, and I'm going to continue to kind of bulk out the direction that it's moving. So you can kind of see that I'm really feathering out this area, and I'm using my liner brush and I'm just kind of filling in that space. And honestly, it's something you just have to practice and try. Watching YouTube videos, I hope mine are helpful, but definitely getting this into practice will make this so much more clear, and hopefully by using it practically will kind of make even more sense than maybe just watching this video. So I encourage you, if you don't want to do a full piece yet, maybe you're not that confident yet, you're like, oh, I still don't know, Cassie, I'm not sure. Maybe just start off with a little swatch. You can get acrylic pads from like a art store or like a craft store like Michael's, and you could just do and practice a swatch of different hairstyles or fur styles or feathers on that paper first, before you start working on an actual finished piece. So if you're not quite there yet and you're like, oh, I don't want to, waste a canvas or start a project, try those little fur swatches first, get some like practical experience under your belt, see how the paint moves and reacts and your color combos, and then apply it to a full piece. And here, as we kind of go full circle a little bit, you can see that I am doing exactly that, illustrating the fur direction with a darker color. And then I go over with a lighter color on top. Now, keep in mind, do not cover over all of the area that you've painted shadowed with the dark gray and just cover it over with white paint. So we want to leave some of that there to illustrate that, okay, the fur is dense, it is very, very thick, and maybe there's marks there. Maybe there's like a birthmark or a scratch or a bite or something there. If we cover over all of the shadow, then we could have just done a base layer or a highlight layer, cover the entire area, and then that's it. So keep in mind, leave some of that shadow there as well to illustrate that depth, and just keep doing that throughout the entirety of your portrait's face, and just adjusting with those brushes. Liner, if it's longer hair, I find very helpful, or if it's short, kind of like like a spiky sort of fur, maybe it's like a boxer, a pet portrait that has very short fur, use that round brush for that as well. So unfortunately, this part in the video, for whatever reason, did not record, so I'm just quickly going to get you caught up, but I basically use the same principles and the same techniques to fill in the chin. So I started with a base layer, put in all of those shadows following that hair direction, and then I put in the sort of lighter kind of white color on top. And from there, once that was dry, I can now start to work on the chest and sort of shoulder area of this tiger. Now, this area is very shadowed. It is hidden. The tiger's head is kind of like out in front, and then the shoulder and chest is set back. So my base layer is very, very dark. So I'm using a dark gray, and I'm just going ahead and adding that in. This is a filbert, but I also use a blender brush as well. So it's a sort of round, almost looks like a makeup brush, a blender brush. If you don't have one, I definitely recommend checking them out. I have a 12 and a 6, and they have been fantastic. So I definitely recommend checking those those out. And I've just done my base coat, and now I'm kind of noodling with the chin. Again, I apologize. I tend to bounce back and forth in these videos, and anyone who's seen my other content before knows that, you never know. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know with my videos what you're going to get. But I'm working in this area, and if you stay to this general area, you'll be fine. If you're painting along with me, again, I try to keep my thought process on check, but who knows? So I'm just going in and I'm feathering in these sort of lighter, kind of wispy hairs at the front of the chest and shoulder. And then I'm just going in the chin with the same color and kind of noodling back and forth and working in both areas kind of simultaneously. Now, whiskers, I get a lot of questions about whiskers, and I will do a dedicated video to it, but there's two ways that I go about it. I either use my Molotow acrylic pump marker in white, and I just go in and I fill in the whiskers using the pen, or I will use my liner brush and I will water down some titanium white paint and kind of use a mixing white as well. Mix those all together, and then that allows me to create a nice smooth acrylic. That is something that I get questions a lot of on my videos, is how I get my acrylic so smooth. And typically I will use a mixing white and then the color and then water it down just a little bit, and that tends to really help. All right, so I'm just going in with my filbert, the largest one that I have, and I'm just going in and I'm filling in that canvas left side of the painting with the base gray. And I'm excited about this part. This one was a little bit of a challenge for me. This tiger was very high res. It was very detailed, very crisp, and so I had a lot of detail to work from, and I was really trying to just experiment with a different fur technique. So let me know in the comments down below what you think, but I think it turned out pretty darn cute, and I'm excited about it. And you can really see here kind of an example and a demonstration of my fur technique. And I sound like a broken record kind of talking about this video and this tutorial, but layer some more. When you think you've done enough layering, do another one. I pretty much sat at this painting and just painted, whatever you want to call it, fur for a good 2-3 hours. So this is 2-3 hours of footage kind of compressed into a minute. And you can see where I take my large filbert with some darker gray and I'm kind of noodling. I'm just kind of working in some direction. The brush is dry. I'm kind of just dry brushing it in. And then I'm going in with some lighter white on top and a middle tone gray. And I'm kind of just honestly farting around at this point. I know in these videos they always seem really kind of prim and proper and here's how you paint, and honestly I'm glad that's how it comes across, but the vast majority, honestly, if I'm being completely transparent with you, is me just kind of farting around and hoping for the best. And then I make it into a video and I pray even more that you guys like it and that it works. So I just say try your best and look at your reference and really kind of break it down into layers. Pretend that it's like Lego and it's built, and those bottom layers are on the darkest bricks of Lego, and then your highlights are your lightest bricks on top, and you kind of just slowly increase that color from there. And you can see by the end of this process, maybe that analogy was really bad, but you can see by the end of this process I am almost using a white paint, and you can see those dark gray areas kind of shining through in certain areas to depict depth and motion too. That's also a point too, is that it looks like it's moving and it looks like it's real and that it's not just one flat color. And from there, I'm using, my Molotow at the very end to kind of get those really opaque white areas or maybe thicker fur clumps of it together. And I end up doing that on top. And so I work my way through this painting kind of using the same techniques and the same principles, and I hope for the best. And so I encourage you guys to, as long as you're putting paint to canvas, you're creating, you're doing a great job, and you're learning. Most importantly, every single painting that I do, I'm learning and I take away something new from it that I didn't know before. And so you might be at this part of the video and you're like, I'm not getting this, or this is frustrating. Maybe you're frustrated with your own painting and that's how you got here. Just know that when you're frustrated and you're feeling like you're not getting anywhere is when you're actually learning the most. So keep that in mind and try not to get discouraged. Art is a journey. It is definitely not a race, and enjoy every step of the way. Now, I know I can blab a lot, back to the learning, but I'm taking my liner brush now and I'm just working in those long, fluffy cheek areas. And again, if you ever feel as though your painting, or your paint rather, is getting a little bit lumpy, it's maybe not applying well. Sometimes acrylic has a chance to like streak across the canvas and kind of leave gaps, especially if it's a textured canvas. So if you are experiencing this in your own work, what I like to recommend is for you to take a little bit of water. So kind of load up your brush with water and your color that you made, and then add in a little bit of mixing white if you have it, or you can just water it down. And that usually will work for me and allow me to kind of get a nice broader stroke while still being opaque. And again, a big shout out to Grumbacher. Their Academy acrylic paints are fantastic. And ever since I switched to them, I have been over the moon with acrylic painting and so happy. And so I am able to water down my colors just a touch, not too much, and get a really nice, smooth, thin stroke, especially for these sort of markings and like whisker areas. So the next item on my list was to complete the tiger's left ear. And so I'm taking my filbert brush with a base gray, and I'm just going in and I am filling in that area entirely. And once that's dry, I'm taking my small round brush. I believe I was using a 0 and a 000, but you can use any size you want. And I'm just going in and I'm filling in the darker sort of inside area of that ear. And so big cats have very sort of deep, cavernous looking ears, and they can get really quite dark. And so I'm going in with a really dark gray and kind of blocking that in. And you can draw yours in and kind of follow that, or if you want to just go for it and start laying down some paint in your, first few base layers, you can absolutely do that. Every artist is different and will definitely have a different method. So please feel free to use what works for you. And once you have that area deep enough, it looks dark enough and set back, you can go ahead and use a lighter gray to illustrate the very hairy ears that usually big cats have. And now I will say, looking back, and while I was doing the voiceover for this video, I did realize that my tiger ears were probably not crazy enough and messy enough. And so this is what I always talk about: when you're finished a painting, you level up. It's the truth. You always see things once a piece is completed, never when you're actually doing it, and how you would do it differently next time. So next time for me, I would definitely probably make the hairy ears hairier and make them a little bit more crazy, and really kind of flick those hairs out into the background. They are a little bit safe for me. So keep that in mind with your painting, just to kind of have fun and really make those hairs go everywhere. You can see I tried to make it a little bit messier, but I was still within that box. I didn't quite break out of it like I wanted to and should have. So keep that in mind with your painting, make it a little crazy. And I'm just going to continue kind of rinse and repeating these techniques that I've been talking to you about in the last 20 or so minutes, and I'm just going to go ahead and repeat them on the right side of the face as well. So everything we've done so far, using that base gray with our shadows on top, and then our lighter layers, our whites and our light grays, I'm just going to go and do that on the right side of the face as well. And for the remainder of the video, I like to do this, I'm going to let you guys enjoy with some music. I know that I can talk a lot, and not everyone is an auditory learner. Some people just want to see it actually being created without the constant chatter of me. So I'm going to let you enjoy the remainder of the video, and I will catch you at the very end and we will get caught up. Sounds good? Have fun painting. I'll see you at the end. All right, and there you have it. There is my white tiger piece, Fire and Ice, completed in all of its glory. I am very excited for the client to receive this painting and for it to finally be in its forever home. It is always such a wonderful, amazing feeling to finally get word that the package has arrived and they are where they should be forever. Thank you guys for watching this video. I know it was a little bit of a longer one today, but hopefully you picked up something new or you learned something that you can apply in your own painting. And I appreciate your support both here on YouTube and on Twitch. If you liked today's video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. It helps grow my channel, as well as if you like my content, don't forget to hit the little subscribe button and the bell to be notified when I upload next. Our YouTube family has been growing and growing and growing, and I'm so grateful for all of the support and so happy to have you in our little YouTube art family. So I'm happy to have you guys. Thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments down below what your favorite part of today's video was. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.